This is Gemara in Kesubos Daf Chav Vav, and we're holding on the very top of Chav Vav and Aleph, the top line, as we're in the middle of trying to prove at what point and what action proves that a kohen is miyuchas, he's genealogically fit, he's able to marry a girl who is kosher. What are the different actions that could prove such? Is it Birchas Kayanim? Is it getting an aliyah? Is it getting the granary, the mechalik in the granary, etc.? Is it getting the trumas to maestros? What is the action that proves to us the kohen status? And we concluded yesterday with the top of Chavav and Aleph that in the case of Mesiach Lefi Tumai, that if a relative says something offhanded, a casual remark, not when he's asked it point blank, then he has a higher na'amanis. Because he wasn't saying it to be saying something, he was just saying it offhanded, so there's more believability, and even a brother would have a na'amanis to say such a thing, even though he's obviously a kara if he's related. And now the Gemara proves this point in the top line of Chavav and Aleph. Ki Adam Rav Yehuda or Shmuel, Rav Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. There was a certain man that was talking casually. V'amar Zacharni, you know what I remember? When I was a little kid, I was riding on the shoulders of my father, and he picked me up from school. And what did he do? And he removed my clothing, and he put me into the mikvah. I remember he picked me up from school, he got me dressed, he put me in the mikvah. Why? So that he can eat truma la'erev that evening. And Rav Chia concluded, the end of the story was, my friends would stay away from me. I know what they would say. I see they would call me Yochanan Oichel Chalois. Yochanan, the one that eats challah, and based on that which he casually told over what happened many years prior, Ve'elu Rabbi the Kuna Alpev, and Rabbi elevate him to the status of Kuna based on his word. So that's an example of Mesiach Lefi Tumai, in which you'll have an emanis. Tanya says the Gemara, another way of identifying and knowing that the kohen is a kosher kohen. 7 lines down, the first one line is Rav Shimon, Tanu Rav Shimon Elazar Aimer. Keshev shetruma chazaka lekuna. Just like eating truma is a chazaka, you're a kohen, kach ma'aser rishon, chazaka lekuna. So too, if you receive ma'aser rishon, that as well is a chazaka for kuna. Ve'achoylek bebezdin, einoi chazaka. But someone who gets, and someone who Bezdin gives him, that it's not a chazaka. An interesting cryptic statement. If you got Meiser Rishon, it proves you're a kohen. But if you got it by Bezdin, what it is, we'll have to see, then it is no proof. And now the Gemara says, let's understand this brisa. Meiser Rishon, Deleviu. Says the Gemara, what? Why is the fact you receive Meiser Rishon a proof to anything? Meiser Rishon is given to Levi. Answers the Gemara, no. 4 lines in the Y lines. Kerb ben Yaakov, Detanya. Truma lekoyin Meiser Rishon. Levi divi Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says Meiser Rishon goes to Levi, but Rabbi ben Azariah Oimer. Meiser Rishon av lekoyin. And Meiser Rishon is even allowed to go to a kohen. So says the Gemara, that's what the Bryce was referring to. If you got Meiser Rishon, it's proof you're a kohen, like the opinion of Rabbi ben Azariah. But ask the Gemara further, Ema than Rabbi ben Azariah. When does he say this thing after kohen? It's only that he could also give it to the kohen. The kohen Levi miyamar on the first white line. Did Rabbi ben Azariah ever say you're not allowed to give it to the Levi? No. So the fact that he received Meiser Rishon, what's the proof at all? Answers the Gemara in, no, he did say that. Ba'asar the kansinu Ezra, after Ezra gave the kanas. After the kanas of Ezra, what happened is only kohanim would get Meiser Rishon. Asked the Gemara in the first line, okay, it's true that there was a kanas, but how do you know? Maybe a person just went and gave it to a Levi. So the fact that you see a person receiving Meiser Rishon, maybe not necessarily is it a proof. You know what's going on over here? The cases that we know about this guy's pops. We know that his father is a kohen. So there was a whole story. We know this guy's father's a kohen, and one day we find out, that he's a ben, the son of a grusha or chalutza, meaning that his father married someone incorrectly, a grusha, for example, a kohen cannot marry, and the child is a chalal, which means this kid does not have the status of a kohen. and they gave him Meiser Rishon. So says the Gemara, 1 second. We know this kid's father was a Kohen. Then we found out that 1 second, it sounds like there's a problem. He's a Chalul. His father was he's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. But then he receives Meiser Rishon. Explains the Gemara, Levi delav Levihu. Should we consider he's a Levi? Delav Levihu. We know he's not a Levi. We know his father is a Kohen. So what's exactly going on over here? Let's figure this out. We know his father was a Kohen. So is he a Levi? That's not an option. Michael and Meimar. So what are you going to suggest is going on over here? Ben Grusha Ben Chalutzu. Okay, you know what it is? That he's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, which means that he's a din of Yisrael. But says the Gemara, what does that mean? But the fact that he got Meiser Rishon, Yisraelim don't get Meiser Rishon, so what's going on over here? Answers, he explains the Gemara, Loimi Ba'ilaman da Amar, 5 lines into the wide lines, according to the opinion that holds Meiser Rishon, Aser Lizarim, the Meiser Rishon is forbidden to go to Yisraelim, you're not allowed to give it to him, so that can't be the case, because this kid got Meiser Rishon, and if we're going to opinion that Yisrael's not allowed to get, and there was a Shmuah, we heard that he's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, which means he's Yisrael, how do you get Meiser Rishon? Ella explains the Gemara, even according to the opinion that says Meiser Rishon is allowed to be given to Zarim, to Yisraelim, still, the fact that this kid got Meiser Rishon, we don't know what that means. That is only that you're allowed to give him Meiser Rishon. Avol b'toiras chaluka lo yavilei. It means he's able, Yisrael is potentially possible to get Meiser Rishon, but he's not allowed to get it as b'toiras chaluka. He's not allowed to be part of the formal distribution. So the fact that he received the distribution of Meiser Rishon, that's the proof he's a Kohen. Again, the Gemara was bothered. Meiser Rishon goes to Levi, Rav Laz ben Azariah. It still could be after the Kanas. What do you mean? But maybe we still gave it to Levi. So says the Gemara, this interesting case that we know his father's a Kohen, so there's no possibility that he's a Levi. He's either a Kohen or Yisrael. And the fact that he got the formal distribution, that shows, even according to the opinion that Meiser Rishon is allowed to go to Yisrael, it's only an allowance, but we never formally distributed. So the fact that this kid got the formal distribution shows us clearly he is a Kohen, and that is the proof of the Gemara. Says the Gemara, but the end of that brisa said something interesting and peculiar. But if you get it in Bezdin, it's not a chazaka. Frak the Gemara, ask the Gemara, if Bezdin lo have a chazaka, if they have a chazaka, 1 second, if Bezdin is no chazaka, then when does this guy have a chazaka? Amar Rav Sheshes, you know when? Achi kamar. Hachoylek Truma b'nechsei aviv. Someone divides Truma on the property of his father, with whom? Emecha bebezdin, with his brothers in Bezdin. Einoi chazaka. If a father is nifter, and the children are dividing the estate, and part of the estate is Truma, so if one of the brothers received Truma, you would think, Gevaldik, that shows that he's a Kohen, the fact that he's getting Truma. Says the Gemara, no, it shows nothing. Frak the Gemara, Pshita, of course. Why is it of course? Because what's the whole concern over here? That this kid is a Chalal, that he's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, that he was born from a forbidden union of his father with the Grusha and Chalutza. But if that's the case, with regard to Yerusha, he still gets Yerusha. A Chalal is a din of Yisrael, that he doesn't get Truma and Meisers. But when it comes to dividing his father's estate, he gets like everyone else. So what's the Chiddush? Explains the Gemara, from the fact that the other brothers are getting Truma to eat, maybe and this brother's getting also, maybe that itself is a proof he's getting it to eat, Kamash Malan, Hani Lachila, Hai Lizvuni, and therefore there is no proof. We do not necessarily know that he is a Kohen himself. And now we continue about 6 lines to the bottom of the Amid. Rav Yehuda Omer in Malikun al Biyadech. Rav Yehuda said, we do not believe and we do not assume someone to be a Kohen and Paskin that he's a Kohen based on one aid. And in the Mishnah, Rav Elazar said, it came along and was machalik and differentiated between whether they were Oyrin, whether they were challengers or not. And Rav Shimon Gamliel seemingly said, says Rav Shimon Gamliel, one witness is believed. So Rav Yehuda says, one witness is not believed. Rav Eliezer says, depends on the challengers. Shem Gamliel says, we yes bump him up. Ask the Gemara, Rashbag, Hainu Rav Eliezer. Go look in the Mishnah. Rishim Gamliel and Rav Eliezer are basically and ostensibly saying the same din, that there's no nemanis with an eight, that there is a yes nemanis with an eight echad. V'chi, Tema, maybe you'll explain ir echad, the difference is when there's one person protesting, how do we view that? Rav Eliezer, Savi ir echad, that one person protesting is enough. Rashbag Savi Trey, but says the Gemara that can't be because everyone agrees an ear is only with two. So what is the case in the Mishnah which Rav Yehuda, Rav Elazar, and Shimon Gamliel are arguing? Shimon Gamliel seemingly is saying the exact same thing as Rav Eliezer, and it can't be they're arguing whether there's a concept of an ear of bringing up a question with one person because everyone agrees you need two. So explains the Gemara, you know the case of the Mishnah is on 2 lines at the bottom. We know that this person's father is a kain. A whole long Gishmaka story. So it's part number 1 of the story is this kid is a kain. Then we find out, no, it's true his father was a kain, but he was born from a forbidden union. He was born from his father with a Gusha Chalutza. He's a chalal. And therefore, vachtine. So what do? We demote him. You're not a kain anymore. Then, this is step number 3. Again, step number 1 is we hear he's a kain. Step number 1 is we know he's a kain. Step number 2 is we hear he's a Yisrael, he's a Chalal, he was born from a forbidden union of a kain to Gusha Chalutza. So we demote him. Step number 3 is the Eid comes in from Yadana Beit Kainu. And the Eid says, no, we know he's a kain, like step number 1. We turn over to Chavav and Beis, Vasignu. Great, we bump him back up. Then step number 4, Vasu Beit Sheva Ben Gusha Chalutza. 2 of them come in, say no, it's really like step 2. He's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Okay, Vachtinu, we bump him down. And then step number 5, Va'asu Eid Echad Va'amar Yadanu Beit Kainu. Another Eid Echad comes in. So we had 2 separate Eid Echads in Bezdin saying that this guy is indeed a Kayin. And we had 2 Eidim in the middle saying no, he's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. So explains the Gemara, Tekule Alma Mitztarfin Leidos. Everyone in this case holds that when we have 2 singular witnesses, an Eid Echad in the first part, number 2, and Eid Echad over here, number 5, that the 2 Eid Echads do indeed combine. So what's the machlokes over here? An interesting machlokes. Are we concerned with the integrity? Are we concerned with what people are going to say about this bezin? Remember what happened. We knew his father's a kain. Then we found out he's ben Grusha ben Chalutza, we demoted him. Then we found out no, he's a kain, we promoted him. Then we found out that no, he's not a kain, we demoted him. Then we found out no, he's a kain, now we want to promote him again. So he already was demoted twice. So Tanakama Savar, once we lower him, we don't bring him back up. Why? People are going to say, what's going on with this bezdin? Down and up and down and up. He's kosher, he's puzzle, he's kosher. What's going on? There's no integrity to this bezdin. Rashbag Savar, no. We bezdin said he's no good. No, we bezdin can bump him up. And we are not concerned. That is how we're explaining the machlokes. Ask if Rav Ashi, but ask Rav Ashi 1 second. Why did you say this interesting case that there was an Eid Echad at the beginning and an Eid Echad at the end, and really ostensibly they would combine? But over here it's a new different machlokes. Whether we're nervous that we're upgrading and downgrading if it's going to look bad. Ask Rav Ashi. You could say the same thing with the case of 2 and 2. Elam Rav Ashi, you know what the case is. No, not like we said on the top of the Alma that everyone agrees that they're mitzaref. No, rather that is the machlokes. Do we combine Eidim or not? They're arguing about something that they previously argued, different Tanaim. The halacha is we do not combine their Eidos unless they both testify about the same event. Even if they testify one after another, we still combine them. And now continues the race. Until they both could be sustained in court. So the Gemara concludes that the machlekes that we have right now, Rav Elazar and Rav Shimon, are arguing about the machlekes between Rav Nasan and the Rabbanan. The Rav Elazar goes to the Rabbanan, which is the first opinion in this brisa without any shita, and Rav Shimon goes to Rav Nasan, and that's the way we're going to explain the machlekes by us. And now we begin a new Mishnah on Chavavim Beis. Ha'isha shenachveshes v'dei avid k'chaved oivdei k'chavin. A woman is captured by goyim. Al yedei mamayin mutaris l'bayla. Al yedei nefashis asur l'bayla. Cryptic and interesting Mishnah. We know that unfortunately when a woman is captured, we have to assume that perhaps the captors were ma'anis her, they slept with her, they forced her into having relations. But says the Mishnah, a very interesting clause. But if they captured her, ransoming her for money, they're not going to touch her. Why not? Because they're concerned if they touch her and they play with her and they start sleeping with her, they're never going to get the cash they want. So if they're taking her over a ransom of cash, we could assume she was not touched, and she's mutter to her husband. But if they took her for an alidina fasha, that they don't care, then we have to assume that they're going to do all dreadful and terrible things with her, and therefore, and that's the reason why she's going to subsequently be usher to her husband. Says the Gemara, let's delve a bit deeper into the first case. Something I'm sure people are thinking about. The first case we said if they take this girl over ransom for cash. But explains the Gemara, this only works if us, Klal Yisrael, if our Bezdin is running the world. If we're running the world and we control even the Goyim, then it's understandable that if they're taking this girl over monetary issues, then they're not going to touch her because they want to get the cash. But in the case of a corrupt Bezdin, not corrupt Bezdin, a corrupt world where the Goyim run the world, so they don't care. So even if they're taking her for ransom, she's still going to be forbidden to her husband because we still have to assume that since they themselves are in control, the fact that they sleep with her is not going to be a reason that she won't pay, and therefore they're going to violate a woman even if they took her for monetary reasons. But Masiv Rava asks Rava 6 lines to the bottom. Hey Rav Yisi Akoin Rav Zercham and Katzav al Bas Yisrael Sharhani ba'Ashkelon. On a certain Bas Yisrael Sharhanu, as Rashi says, she was given as a mashkelon in Ashkelon. And what happened? V'rachkua b'nei mishpachtai, and her family distanced themselves from her. Ve'edia me'ididim, and testimonies. Edim came in. Aisa shaloi nistera v'shaloi nitma. Edim said no. The people that captured her, they did not do anything to her. V'amru lahem chachamim, and the chachamim said to the family. Again, what's the Edim saying? The Edim are saying that she was not touched. So the Rabbanan said to the family, 1 second. If you believe she was captured, she was taken in a mashkin. So you should also believe that they didn't do anything. This is a quintessential bashas. The Edom told us the story. They told us the end of the story. They didn't do anything wrong. So he asked the family, what is going on over here? And let's say you say, forget it. I don't believe these Edom at all. We don't think she was captured. Then don't believe that she was taken captured. So regardless, they were asking the family, why are you separating from her? Says the Gemara, based on this lengthy brisa, and it's going to be a kasha. But a place like Ashkelon, the Goyim ran Ashkelon, and yet the Katani, what do we say? And I don't have the next Amen in front of me, but the Gemara continues in Amen Aleph, the Katani Heronu in Nechlish Alai. So we see that even when the Goyim are in control, still the halacha is that we could assume that if it's for a mamain, she's going to be mutter labayla, not to like the differentiation that we said. And we'll pick up from here, Mitzvah Shem, in the next year.